Hey folks, Poster, welcome back to another Poem Masters video, and with a new update, new units, a lot of people obviously, want to, are wondering which ones maybe are a bit better than the others, right? And let's talk about these, right? As usual, this isn't, a which one should you summon on, advice kind of video, right? Because, that's not what this video is, right? And, like, honestly, if you actually want to ask me for advice on stuff like that, my advice would probably be save your gems for the anniversary. But anyways, regardless, again, this is not a which banner you should summon on, sort of video. It's more so, again, we're just talking about the evaluating the units by their abilities. And honestly, this unit has, or not this unit, this video has like no value. It's just for fun, right? We're just having fun. Again, my opinions, you don't have to agree with them, right? And you shouldn't. You have your own thoughts, folks. Anyways, let's get into this. So, we got a lot of really, really interesting stuff this patch, right? So, starting off, let's just go from like top to bottom, I guess. And then at number one, bit of a surprise maybe to some. It is not, Xerneas with the insane bulk and all the healing, the buffs, the whatevers. It's not Evoltal, which is like a mini Metagross with the flinches, all this stuff. It's not Dawn with the really, really crazy, buffs and all that. It's not, Valentine Serena with the, what I don't even know what she does. Damage, fairy type damage, good fairy type damage, right? It's regular Serena. It's just the old regular Serena. Obviously, she did get a 6-star EX outfit, right? Yeah, she's still incredibly broken. She has AoE sleep, which again is the most broken ability in the game by far. I don't think, nothing comes close at all, right? And on top of that, her 6-star EX is actually really, really good because she's a fantastic sync nuker. And then with the extra 1.5 times, damage buff that makes her even more broken than she already is. So, that's the obvious, clear-cut number one. Like, no one is even close. But now that we got that one out of the way, the I guess least controversial one out of the way, the boring one. Let's talk about some fun ones, right? So in terms of like the new characters, all that stuff, which one do I think is the best? Kind of a surprise here, I guess. But I think it's Xerneas, honestly. I really think Xerneas is the best one, even though Xerneas is the free one. It's a free-to-play sync pair, right? Completely free. And I think it's better than any of like the paid ones, and probably better than like a lot of the past paid or I guess scout units that we've had in a while outside of May, right? I don't think May is much better, but outside of May, like a lot of like the past units that we've been having this last 2-3 months, I think Xerneas might be better than them all. Although I don't exactly remember which units we had in the last few months, but yeah, this thing is incredibly good. Like Xerneas at 20 out of, because we're getting a free 5 out of 5, 20 out of 20, right? Free 5 out of 5. Look at these stats. Oh my god, like even if you completely ignore the kit, a 20 out of 20 Xerneas, 355 or 353 speed, almost 300 special defense, almost 300 defense, right? 332 attack, 739. Like, there literally is not a bad stat in this whole thing's kit. This thing is insane, just from the stats alone. Really, really great stats. Obviously, stats don't mean everything, right? I mean, you could have units with really, really great stats. Like, Solrock has really great offensive stats. That thing sucks, right? Or Kaili. But it also has a fantastic kit as well, right? It has Dazzling Gleam, which is pointless. You have Moonblast, which could actually do some solid damage because you also have in your passive Fairy Power 5, which is an extra 50% boost to your like Moonblast. So it makes your Moonblast like hit like as hard as like a 4-gauge move, right? Then you got Horn Leech, which regens HP. Like, we got Holiday Erica, like what, 2 months ago, right? And Lilybee like a month ago. And honestly, like in terms of a self-healing tank, obviously they all have their different, capabilities. Lilybee obviously buffs crit, which is really, really great, and evasion, and Hilarica has like an insanely overpowered like burst AoE heal, right? But like if we're just looking at like this one aspect in terms of self-healing on regen, Xerneas honestly has them beat. Xerneas has them beat, I think, right? Because first of all, Horn Leech is a 3-gauge move, right? And on top of that, you have really, really great attack and like crazy defenses as well. Like if we look at like Ribombi, right? Where is it? Like its stats aren't like terrible either. It has, great, defenses. But first of all, its HP is nowhere as, let's put it at 20 to make it fair, right? Its HP is nowhere, as good as Xerneas's. Again, its defense is, although very, very high, it's not there either, right? And then like the attack stat the attack stat is nowhere close to Xerneas's attack stat, right? Like Xerneas, again, they gave us this for free. This is free, and it's incredibly powerful. World is vast. You get move gauge acceleration. You take away status conditions. You have, on top of the, Horn Leech for yourself, you give your whole team gradual heals. And again, Moonblast hits relatively hard, right? You got Team Shout 4, which is the Blastoise passive, which, for 50% chance of raising attack, special attack, or both when you get hit. And then on top of that, like, you have a whole sync grid of, like, Healing Hand, which is amazing. You got Force Field 1, which is nice. On a roll with Moonblast, right? Impervious, Revenge Boost 4, Recuperation. Like, this thing is a massive heal on Horn Leech. This thing is just absolutely nuts. And, again, it's free to play. I'm not even evaluating this. Oh, I'm not giving it more points because it's free. I swear, I'm literally not giving it points for being free, but when you compete with all the other, like, non-free units, this thing, like, just wipes the floor with a lot of them, right? It's so incredibly good. Again, it's a free unit, and then its sync move gives you, what? +6 special attack, +6 special defense, and most importantly, you get +6 speed for your whole team. +6 speed on like, this is a free unit that can enable so many, like, dual striker teams easily, right? I really cannot see an argument for any of these other, like, units being better than Xerneas. As a free unit, this thing is absolutely insane. This is the DNA gift from the heavens. This is absolutely just nuts. I still can't believe they gave us this thing for free. But anyways, all right. Enough Xerneas praise. Moving on to the next one. Who do I think is after Xerneas? This might be controversial, but I think it's I don't know. I want to say Lysander. Again, this is really, really controversial because Lysander has some really, really terrible flaws, right? But I really do like its ups as well. Lysander. All right, let's first talk about its upsides, right? Upsides, actually, let's talk about its downsides first. So downsides is it has terrible defenses and then has a trainer move that decreases your defenses even further, right? So even if you are healing, if you get one shot, there's no point in healing that much, right? Even though, again, you do have a lot of HP, but with those defenses, with the minus defenses, that kind of sucks. And then the other really oof thing about Yveltal is it's a dual striker, and a lot of people think, well, that's great, you got like dual type coverage, right? But not really, because the thing about Yveltal is, like, the kit, they're trying to make it work with each other, but it just doesn't. Right? Oblivion Wing, that's a 4-gauge, flying type move. You're trying to use Oblivion Wing to heal, right? That's your main source of, sustain, and also flying type damage. And then you got Dark Pulse, which has 2 aggravations, which is fantastic, by the way. The 2 Dark Pulse aggravations, absolutely fantastic. Really, really high chance of flinch, which does remind me, like, Yveltal is like sort of like a mini Metagross, and Metagross, again, is, in my opinion, the overall best striker in the game. But the thing with Yveltal is, if you're swapping between using Oblivion Wing and Dark Pulse, guess what? You're losing out on a lot of damage, because when you're fighting a unit, usually they're going to be just strictly one type, and if you're switching between the two, you're missing 2 times the damage on that one non-super effective move, whichever one it be. Whether it's, if you're losing super effective damage on the Dark type move or the Flying type move, you are losing super effective damage on that. And that kind of sucks. That really, really sucks. And then on top of that, to make matters even worse, Yveltal's damage output is really, really low 44. Like Evil has the lowest 4 gauge. As a 4 gauge move user, it has the lowest damage output in the whole game, even lower than like Blastoise, which Blastoise, not really great in that department, right? The damage is really really low, right? Unfortunately, but again, going back to its upsides, stuff that I really like about Yveltal, yeah, Oblivion Wing, the heals are really nice, even though it caps out at 50%, which also kind of sucks. But again, with the really great HP, you get the regen from Oblivion Wing. You get like other stuff like recuperation and healthy healing. You should be fine with your HP, right? And then on top of that, you have healthy buffer 5. So if you do have 3 out of 5 Yveltal, even with the defenses, you should be fine most of the time, just because it's kind of like a multi-scale, right? And then, yeah, the aggravation on Dark Pulses are really, really great. They're almost as high as Metagross's flinches, right? So I really, really do like the aggravation on the Dark Pulses. Again, the downside's really, really like, look at this guy's look at this guy's multipliers. HP advantage 2, which at max HP gives you a 10% boost on your damage for 10 energy. Then you got Harry 2, which you need to flinch first of all, right? Like, its damage output is terrible. Like, the multipliers are terrible. It's as for a 4-gauge striker, obviously, it still does like solid damage. It does like around, I think, around like Lucario's damage. Like, oh, incredibly sad fact. Striker Alakazam out damages this thing, unfortunately. But again, it's kind of like Steven. You have to put your mindset right. Like, it's kind of like Steven. You could flinch the opponent. You could sustain relatively well with the heals and all that stuff. I just think you just don't use a trainer move. Just like bring some other like crit buffer, I guess, instead. I don't know. I think that's probably the better. It's definitely a tricky unit to use. The damage output could be potentially suspect, but I've been thinking maybe you could use it like as in a dual striker team, because it has like solid speed as well, which I also really really like. You could run it in some kind of like dual striker team and use it as more like of a tech sort of support, and then not as your main DPS output, right? Something like that could maybe be interesting, and also has like great solid bulk if you manage it well as well, right? So anyways, that's enough about Lysander. Moving on to number 4 on those is, I might be a bit controversial, but I think Dawn, honestly. I think Dawn's a really, really great unit, right? So, Dawn with Alcremie. I think people are underrating Alcremie quite a bit. Like, Alcremie, first of all, has really, really great stats across the board, right? And on top of that, you have both Fake Tears and Charm, which one sharply lowers attack and then one sharply lowers special defense. And then you have the Ripple Effect 4, which has 50% chance to turn them into AoEs. And a lot of people say, well, there's, stat reduction mitigation, which is true. There are a lot of stages with damage reduction mitigation, but there are a lot of Master Mode stages that just don't have mitigation at all, or like very, very low mitigation. So I don't think it's that much of a factor. And again, for the most part, when we're talking about stat debuffs in the game, like 90% of the time, you're not using them to like actually debuff their opponent's stats. Like, most of the time you're using stat debuffs to set up like your other damage dealer for something, right? And the really, really great thing about Alcremie, in my opinion, is on top of the ability to set up your other damage dealers with damage debuffs, you're also like, because most of the time these are what like tech units do, right? And this is a tech unit, right? Usually supports don't do that, but Alcremie is also a fantastic support. You get +2 attack and special attack on the trainer move, and then also helps an ally, gradually heal, right? And the +2 attack and special attack with 2 MP, I think it's actually really, really great, because there's a lot of sync pairs that actually really, really would, appreciate that. Stuff like Jigglypuff, right, who is both physical and special, right, has your main damage dealing move is physical, but your sync move is special. And then Wally's another one, right? Your main damage dealing move is special, but your sync move is physical. A lot of units like that could really, really use Alcremie's help. I think this is a huge buff to a lot of those units, right? And then obviously gradually heal is amazing as well, right? And then on top of that, you could do like some okayish damage with your Dazzling Gleam. Nothing too crazy. We don't know what the multipliers on Power Loving, right? But then on top of that, you also have, I think, Power Posture is extra 30%, right? Have their opponent's attack alert. I don't think it's Synchro does anything crazy, right? But you got some like solid stuff here. First Aid, Revenge Boost 3, Healthy Healing, Toughen Up. These are really, really great stuff, right? So I think people are underrating Alchemy. Either people are underrating Alchemy or I'm overrating it. Who knows? We'll see once it drops, but yeah, I'm not like 100% set on this yet, but I definitely think it's really, really nice. Moving on. Maybe another controversial one, but I think Singsu Cynthia honestly got a huge buff with the 6-star EX, right? The big thing about, Singsu Cynthia before was, obviously its damage output wasn't the greatest, right? In terms of 4-star strokers. Although, Singsu Cynthia should be thanking Evilthal, because Evilthal now has a much lower damage output than she had. For being 4-gauge strikers. But one really great benefit that I see coming out of Kamo is Kamo has a big focus on its sync move, right? As sync move, countdown reduction, right? And then obviously has high five. He has a lot of things to rush its sync move, and then its sync move is amazing, right? You got an Omni Boost when you sync, right? If you pick up another one, then you got 2 of those. And then on top of that, you have Static Shock 5, which extra 50% on your sync move if the opponent is paralyzed. So that's really, really nice. I really do think Singsu Cynthia got a solid boost with the EX. Look at her stats at like 20. These are like solid stats, right? On top of like all the other benefits that you get from 6-star EX, right? And Striker 6-star EXs are much better than they were, right? Because of Master Mode, Striker EXs are actually really, really nice, because those sides are really, really annoying when they start spamming like AoE moves after you take out the mid, right? So I do think Singsu Cynthia does jump quite a bit with this 6-star EX. Moving on, next one I do think it's Serena. I might be underrating Serena a bit. Like, Serena and Dawn, it's hard to tell which one's better. Again, I personally do like Dawn a bit better, but then that's my bias, right? I do find units that do what Dawn does, right? That sets up other units a bit more valuable than units that generally just are here to do damage. And, well, that's a bit unfair to Serena, because Serena does also set up your other units as well. Like, Kamo, you can run Kamo with Serena, right? With Static Shock, Paralysis, Synergy 2. EX Kamo with that AoE sync move would definitely appreciate the AoE stun spore, right? But my thing with Serena is, like, again, she does solid damage. She has, like, a lot of great multipliers on her grid, right? But there are some things that I don't think are, like, that crazy, right? First of all, Stun Spore, AoE Stun Spore, I find people are heavily overrating AoE Stun Spore in my opinion. I like Paralysis. I think Paralysis is a really, really nice status in this game. However, it's just nowhere near as good as Sleep, and that's the other thing about Serena is the biggest thing stopping like Valentine Serena from being better than she is the existence of regular Serena, because Valentine Serena is the only sync pair in the whole game that you cannot run with, again, arguably the best unit in the game, which is regular Serena, that has AoE Hypnosis, right? And that's just slightly unfortunate. Like, Valentine Serena is just, like, worse than regular Serena in, like, almost every aspect. Basically, I guess she does have AoE Cotton Spore, which I do like a lot. I really do like AoE Cotton Spore, because there's a lot of units with Hunter Instincts lately, right? Well, I wouldn't say lately, but, in the game in general, so that definitely helps a lot. But, yeah, she definitely solid Fairy type damage. She's probably the best Fairy type damage dealer that we have now, right? And great speed as well. I'm not saying she's bad. She's definitely very, very good, right? Like, none of these units are bad. Like, even the ones ranked, like Lance, I'm about to, like, throw Lance next time. Lance is amazing, right? Lance has incredibly high damage, right? Like, the damage-wise, right, it's really hard to complete, like, outside of, like, Serena, like, it's hard to compete with this guy's, like, just raw damage output, right? And then also has potions, which is fantastic as well. But yeah, Lance just doesn't get much from his 6-star EX, and honestly, his 6-star EX kind of sucks. Might be one of the worst ones in the game, just because it just gives him, like, absolutely zero value. I wouldn't say zero, but, like, very, very minimal value, right? And moving on, last one, I do think it's Pierce and Obstagoon. I don't like Obstagoons. I really don't like Obstagoons Kid. I'm not saying he's a bad unit, because again, he's a great unit. But his Synchro just kind of sucks. I don't know what else to say. Like, block and heal 1? Block and lunge 1 only? And then again, it's a very risky unit to run. Like, it's really good on those stages that have the exact same attack pattern, so you know precisely when the opponent is going to use which attack, right? So you could time it absolutely precisely when the unit, throws out a huge attack, then you could obviously obstruct and then completely nullify that hit, which, again, that's very, very powerful. But again, there aren't that many stages. It's mainly just like Legendary Arena that kind of does that. A lot of other stages their move usage is random / gets affected by, a lot of times what you do, right? And it's slightly less predictable, although some of them are still relatively predictable, right? So again, I'm not saying it's bad unit. Another, Dire Hit All Plus unit. All Dire Hit All, like, if you have Dire Hit All Plus, you're automatically really good, right? And then on top of that, I do like the passives, right? You get, it would have been nice if it was for the whole team, but I mean, it's still cool, I guess. And then it's nice that they also had like MP refresh on obstruct. If it didn't have MP, like 2 MP refresh 2s, right? If it didn't have MP refresh or at this many MP, it would have been really, really bad. But it does, so I do think it's really, really nice. Yeah, it's just kind of risky, right? You do run the risk of, if you predict wrong what the opponent is going to do, and then, if the opponent just starts using like stat buffing moves, and if they use, even worse, if they use stat buffing moves twice in a row, you just completely just played yourself, which is, again, it's a high risk, high rewards unit, right? If the opponent just like straight up just does like X attack all, then X speed all, then like that's boom, you just shaved off 2 turns of sync move countdown on yourself, right? Which really sucks. But again, when used right, this thing can be really, really good, right? It's just very situational, I'd say. That's the biggest thing about Obstagoon. It's really, really situational, but in the right situations, it could be absolutely explosive and really game-changing, right? So anyways, that's me with this one, I guess. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, none of these are bad. None of these are bad. Even Obstagoon is really, really great unit, right? But yeah, again, this is not advice on which units to summon for. I mean, even if you take this advice, like... the biggest takeaway would be very, very thankful for Xerneas for being free, right? But anyway, again, that's my video this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me guys think in the comments down below. Like and enjoy this video, so we're channel for some more Pokemon Masters content. I'll see you guys in the next one.